my friend Erica shared with me, or us, on the Discord about her friend's loss of a pet. And this morning, she asked me to make a video about how I would respond to the loss of a pet. Big military jet. And I've lost a few pets when I was young. Of course, my parents handled that. There's a big bird. It's a bird of prey. I think they can scavenge too, though. And I've lost 2 pets as an adult, in which I was responsible for managing the situation. So I know what it's like. Look at the snow on the mountains. I know what it's like to lose a beloved pet. Oh boy. So I'm gonna try to talk as I walk up there. Let's do this. Just a moment. I need a drink. No, not that kind of drink. I had such a grand scheme that I was going to go so far. I'll make it to the top of this mountain here. That'll be far enough for today. What a great day off it's been. This new home is good. Oh, I shouldn't have brought with me a bubbly drink. Now I'm gonna burp. Okay, let's climb this mountain hill and think about how to deal with the death of a pet. Well, Erica, I'll address this to you. At this point in my life, the only way that I know how to deal with anything is either to just have a visceral gut experience and then just let my mind and my body run away with it, which is how I did things when I was younger, which was like like letting the tide come in, pick me up from the sand and toss me about in the sea. I told you I'd have to burp. That's the mountain the video I made yesterday about climbing a mountain, that was the mountain I was gonna climb. Not a chance. I'm barely gonna be able, this is just the one behind my house right now that I'm doing today. So I don't really, that technique of just letting the emotions flow over me and going with the flow, it does the job. I mean, well, it doesn't do anything. It just lets you live. It's just living through it, and then it'll go away eventually, and you'll be back to some sort of equilibrium. So I could tell you that that's how I do things. That's how I used to do things. That's how I did it when Wilma died, our beagle dog. I cried, and I was emotional, and I thought a lot about it. Thought about deep thoughts, and I had something to think about. A milestone moment in my life to reflect on. as I struggle to gain more maturity. So that's the first way I could handle things. Your question was how would I deal with the loss of a pet? So I'll deal with that in the present tense. Now, of course, I can't help but do some of that. I'm a human being after all. But now I have another way, because I have principles that I use to inform my living. And I have objectives which I strive to achieve. So I would look at the event and manage the event like I would any other significant event in my life, whether that be a challenging meeting at work, or the breakdown of an automobile in the lines of traffic, or an interpersonal challenge with a family member or a friend. I'm citing all kinds of difficult negative things, because the positives tend to be handled in a slightly different way. You can just run with the positives sometimes. So the second approach, if, for example, Ollie took sick and I took him to the vet, like we have there's some plants in our neighborhood that are poisonous to dogs, and I keep them away from it. But let's say he was to swallow some of those flowers, which are deadly to dogs, and I took him into the vet. He turned up sick, and I took him into the vet emergency room, and they said, he clearly swallowed the deadly flowers. There's nothing we can do. He's going to suffer and die in the next 12 hours, or we can just put him out of his misery. I would have to do the first thing, what I would begin to do is use my principles. I know this doesn't quite get to your question just yet. The first thing I would think about is my objectives. One of my objectives is to do one thing slowly. So I would not rush through the decision making. I would assemble the facts. If I can get the qualified opinion of another, like another doctor, I would get that. If not, then I would probably trust the vet and their assessment. Then I would ask myself about my principles. Should I introduce this principle now or later? I'll do it later, even though it probably fits in earlier. It's a new principle that I've never talked about, and I just added it to the Good Life today. But it's kind of it's like a slap in the face, so I'll hold off on that one. There's where I'm going. So I would then begin to run through my principles, using reason to weigh the facts, I would recognize true limits and true opportunity. The limits being, there's only so much that I can do as a layperson, and I do have an opportunity to get the counsel of the vet and their guidance about how to proceed and provide Ollie with a safe exit, or not a safe exit, but a comforted exit. So that's true limits and true opportunity. Next, I would look at, of course, temperance, using temperance to temper my emotions, to keep my reason, earlier principle, my reason at the fore, to be reasonable about what I'm doing, to be logical, objective, and skeptical, within reason. Back to temperance, I would enlist apathy to allow me to recognize the things that are outside of my control. I can't do anything about the fact that Ollie ate those poison plants. Maybe I could have done it before then, but I can't do it now. The doctors say it's too late for medicine. or the doctor, keeping things objective. The vet, that is. Doctor. Well, look at the principle of nature. It is the nature of life for these things to happen. The pirate ride. The idea of no free will. Wow, I could really lean on that one if I wanted to. I could lean on that the same way that the religious lean on the will of God. God needed him for something else, needed to take him home. I can say that there is no free will. This couldn't have been otherwise. I could do that. I would like to think that. It's a funny thing because I don't think we have free will. So I've offered myself that out, but I don't like to take it. Seems weak, and it seems so frail. Gosh, but I'm convinced nevertheless that it's true. So I would have a little bit of time with that concept. But now I'll introduce my new principle. It's called the horror show. And I am introducing this principle to the good life because life is filled with horror. I don't need to, anybody that's an adult in their 20s or 30s, or even beyond, even more so, that isn't aware of the world, isn't aware of this fact. Horror. I mean, there's lots of good too, but there's horror. And I would recognize that this is one more instance of the horror show. And then I would bring about another principle that I have never talked about, but I'm introducing today to the good life, which is the principle of that which must be born. Born is B-O-R-N-E, as in carried, not birthed. That which must be born are the consequence of the horror show that as mature adults, we have no choice but to carry it forward. We can't escape from it. We could try with alcohol or drugs or escapism of various sorts, or denial. Religion is another way, just like my ideas about free will. But the courageous thing to do is to bear it, to stand before the horror show, to recognize the horror, and enlist our other principles of reason and apathy and temperance. One thing slowly, the reality of the horror, and then to bear it forward until the tide recedes back, and we're once again free from that incident. And that, Erica, is how I would handle the death of a pet. Yes, I'm not using this as an opportunity and vehicle to extol the good life. I'm sharing with you how I actually use the good life to live. This is actually what I do. And it actually works. So I'll leave you with that. That's how I would handle the death of a pet. And for that matter, that's how I would handle the death of my wife or my daughter. And if I was really, really on my game, I would be like Stilbo, the Stoic, who, emerging from the waste and the ruins of his destroyed city, where his business was burned and his home was burned and his children and his wife were killed and burned, he stumbled out of this apparently is a true story. He stumbled out of the ruins, and the conqueror waiting as the city burned behind Stilbo. As Stilbo the Stoic stumbled out of the ruins, and the conqueror said, "What have you lost?" And Stilbo looked the person square in the eye and said, "I have all my goods with me." And the conqueror realized that he himself had been conquered by Stilbo's apathy and his temperance, his reason, and his stoic nature, recognizing that all he really needed was the internal tools that he has, the apparatus of his life, of his reasonable life, and which could not be taken through any of those means. Not even the loss of his family, not even the death of his wife, not even the loss of his own life could rob him of that. At least not until the last breath and the last tick of his heartbeat. So let's stop there. I hope that answers your question, Erica. I hope you have a good day, and remember to be safe, but not too safe. Take care.